Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists come up with recipes for success in the music industry. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to be talking about AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, different tools that we can be using to help further our careers as musicians and artists inside of this industry.
That's right. That's right. It's here to stay.
It
AI is
definitely
here to
is.
stay, and it's only getting more powerful by the day.
Mhm.
That is true. So might as well take advantage of the tools and use them at your disposal for what you need to do.
Yeah.
And make it more productive for yourself.
For sure, for sure. We're going to dive into that soon. But first, I want to emphasize that this is not an episode about AI tools that will help you create your music. We're not going to be talking much about AI mixing or mastering or getting representations of other famous artists' voices or creating beats from scratch or anything like that. We're not talking about those kind of tools for now. Maybe later, but those will probably
maybe
potentially be videos,
As
not
like
really
a footnote,
podcast.
kind of
Yeah.
like mention, pass by kind of thing.
Yeah, but we're more so focused on the tools you can be using to help further your career. So things that are more focused on content creation, keeping yourself on track, setting yourself up for success and growth aside from your music. That can just as a business, because you're a business. It's
absolutely.
what a band is.
Yeah, and I mean, the business side of things sometimes isn't fun for everybody. So if you have some AI tools that can help you along with that and make it a little bit less stressful and maybe a little less daunting of a task or draining of a task, then by all means, we definitely recommend trying to use some of these tools to aid you in your process.
Oh, for sure. Being able to offload things you don't want to do and just let AI take care of it. I really like the age that AI is such a cool tool.
It's a very interesting time.
Very interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So prepare for that awesome episode. But before we dive into that, we're going to have a quick appetizer, just kind of get us ready for the podcasting mindset. Just kind of get talking, get loud, get energized. Brandon told me to try to think of a controversial idea that I have about music, kind of like how last time we talked about how I'm not the biggest fan of how autotune is used often in the genres that I do.
Yeah.
He brought up some good points about, how you use autotune and the positives of, your experience with it. But for me, I still hold fast that I disagree.
Yeah.
So if you're curious about that conversation, check out the first 12 minutes of the last episode.
Yep.
The thing I want to say today is that
By the way, I don't know what he's about to say. So this is an authentic, genuine reaction.
So we talk about good quality gear and like getting the right stuff and the reliable stuff. And like there are the things that everyone knows in this industry, like the good classics. You want a good guitar, get a Strat or a Gibson or whatever. You want a good interface, UA, Apollo, all that stuff. You want a good microphone, get a Neumann 87 or whatever. Like those are like the holy grail. The big thing is the really cool shit that's out there.
Yep.
I think that, and I kind of have some proof about this, a lot of the really expensive shit, the things that are like, this is the Rolls Royce of audio gear or whatever you want to say, when it started off, it wasn't that. It just what it was.
Yeah.
And we put way too much effort and more emphasis on the sound that high quality gear does. And a lot of the shitty gear now and the shitty gear of the last like 5-10 years, eventually someone's going to use it to blow up. And then that's going to become one of the most sought after things ever. So like there's nothing like having poor quality gear is really never a limitation. If you use it as an accent versus using it as kind of like, think of it as a limiting factor.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like, I mean, you have people blowing up just off of recording on their phones these days. And like, while that might not be the sexiest thing or maybe the most audiophile thing in the entire world, it's still a valid way to get from point A to point B. I think that's kind of like what they needed back in the day too, was because like, there wasn't a lot of pro-consumer stuff back in the day. I mean, you had to go to a studio if you wanted to get that kind of equipment, or you had to shell out a bunch of cash for it.
Well, not even necessarily, though, because I was talking to somebody I work with. His name is Jeff. He's a live sound guy for the past 40-plus years, and he toured with the Temptations and, what's her name, Dionne Warwick. And he was one of the sound guys, one of the front house guys for their touring rig. And he was telling me how like, yeah, they just had 1176s in their tour rig.
Yeah.
They just had like the right shit go
Mhm.
with them on road after road, because that's just what it was.
Totally.
If you were going to go on the road and you were going to do these things, that's what you had. That's
Yeah.
what you used. They had 1176 LA 2As on the road and all that shit. That
Mhm.
would be like, oh my God, it's so expensive. It's so crazy. You just had like
Yeah.
racks of it on the road because that's just what there was.
Crazy.
Not to say it was cheap back then, because it wasn't
Right.
still, but it was also just what you did.
It's what you had.
Yeah.
At the time. And like, I think it's funny because like, it seems like the audio industry is one of the most perverse to,
Gear syndrome.
well, yeah, of course. But I think they're most, what am I trying to say? They're not accepting of new things
Mhm.
into the audio industry. I'm not sure why that is. And like, maybe it's just because of how we are as humans and we like familiarity.
I think the
We know what's gonna
mainstream
work.
isn't.
Yeah, definitely. Because
Yeah.
like you see a lot on like just social media and stuff, a lot of backlash when new things come out. They're like, oh, well, this won't beat my fill in the blank, or
Mhm.
this will never beat the fill in the blank. And it's like, okay, well, maybe, but like it's also just a different tool at this point. I think plugins demonstrate that really well. I'm an in the box kind of guy. And if you don't know what in the box means, is that means you process mainly inside of the computer being the box. Sean is hybrid, and
I prefer a lot of outside the box kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so like just this conversation alone sparks a lot of arguments, whether plugins sound like the real thing or not, whether they need to sound like the real thing or not. They're just tools at the end of the day. And I feel like they're, like you said, there's a lot of value put on the stuff that we're reminiscent of the things that we're trying to chase, when some of that was actually just sometimes pure magic of the moment. And an LA2A isn't going to get you a good performance necessarily. But if you have a good performance with an LA2A, it's going to blow it out of the water. It's going to do a great job, right?
Mhm.
So I do agree with that 100%. And sometimes this is dictated by price. Like Sean was saying, the more expensive stuff tends to get leaned on as the holy grail of things, like a Sony C800G, which is an $11,000 microphone, and it's praised as one of the best. But is it really?
Is it really?
I mean, maybe for certain instances, for sure. I wouldn't shy away from ever owning one. Somebody walked up to me and said, "Do you want this?" I'd be like, "Yes, please. Of course I would." But like, is it like what? Would it still be this? Would you still think of it the same way if it wasn't that price, right?
Mhm.
So,
Well, because here's the thing: the Strat,
mhm,
the most popular, famous guitar of all time. When it came out, it was the cheap guitar.
yeah,
It was the budget guitar that
Yeah.
a lot of new artists started off with because it's what they could afford. And then, oh, this sounds good. I'm going
Mhm.
to use this on my album. The band blows up. Now they're on stage performing with the Strat. And other artists see these musicians performing with Strats. Oh, I like that sound. I want a Strat.
Yep.
And it grew from that. That's how it built up. It was like Fender was the Squire.
yeah. Now Definitely.
Fender has Squire, but
Yep.
Fender was the Squire.
Yeah, that tradition continues under Squire.
Yeah.
Not necessarily under Fender.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But there are awesome bands out there that use Squires all the time.
And
So
Squires are these days, this might be controversial, but these days Squires are just fantastic, dude.
oh yeah.
They are great guitars. Like their quality has stepped up massively from where they were. I mean, I have a Squire from 2001, 2002 versus like a Squire I just picked up, and man, it's night and day. Of course, they're a little bit more expensive now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's inflation. That's also just maybe like getting a little bit better of a build quality too. So they have to up the price a little bit.
But
But
eventually
man,
you'll
they're
see
just
some
phenomenal like returns and
Yeah.
value. Yeah.
and eventually you'll see some big artists performing with Squires on stage
Yep.
or having Squires on their albums. And
Yep.
now those models are going to jump up in
Yeah.
price. That's just kind of how it goes.
I have a copy of a Squire guitar. Like that's how sometimes sought after these Squires are. Like, isn't that crazy? I have an offshoot of a Squire. So like, I mean, we joked about this before, but we've come full circle. Now we're
Yep.
modeling and emulating Squires. That's crazy to me.
Yep.
That's like actually full circle.
Yep.
So it just goes to show like how good they've become. But I think you're absolutely correct in your statements. So we welcome any arguments against that though, because we want to hear your side.
Yeah. But with all that said, I could probably ask ChatGPT what are some of the greatest, cheapest pieces of gear.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's the sponsor of today's episode. It's an AI tool that can really help you build a career in music. And it's one that I'm sure if you listen to other people like us talking about making it in music or
Mhm.
just anybody online, you hear about it again and again and again. It's the big white whale that we need to get out of the way before we kind of move on to some of these more niche softwares and things like that. But holy shit, is it so powerful. We use it all the time for studios and for this podcast. So I've got nothing but positive things to say about ChatGPT. But today we're going to be talking about kind of some specific use cases, 5 to be specific, that you can act upon to use it to move forward. It's like if you don't know how to use ChatGPT to grow your career or whatnot, these are 5 things you can do to help take away some of the stressful, hard, redundant things and just focus more on the music.
Yeah, just as we were talking about with the gear thing, ChatGPT is the mainstream for AI right now. Definitely the one leading the way, in my opinion. Oh yeah, it's the one that's been talked about on the news. It's the one that the older generations know about. This guy is massive, and if you don't know about this, first of all, I'd be shocked. Second of all, definitely learn about it because it can be insanely powerful. And like we were talking about before we even fired up the episode today, this one might be the biggest point on our list for today, the biggest tool to use. And like you were saying, we have like 5 outlined specific use cases for this guy. And the first one we're going to start with is for social media and content creation. And now you have a lot of familiarity with this, with using ChatGPT. Sean pays for ChatGPT, so he gets ChatGPT 4, right? I think the free one's 3.5, correct?
Which is phenomenal. Bought it because I thought it had a much larger text comprehension volume that you could upload. So we're like, you can only put in 500 words or whatnot in ChatGPT 3.5 to analyze and process. I thought ChatGPT 4, when I researched online, could go between 2,000 to 2,500 words. Because my end goal was to kind of upload the transcript of this podcast and convert it into podcast notes or blog posts or things like that. It's not quite there yet. It can put out that many words. So you can always say just continue on a prompt, and it can make pages worth of information, but it's not really good at summarizing super dense amount of words at once quite yet. I'm sure we'll get there eventually.
Question for you. Are you paying to be a beta tester at that point then?
Kinda, yes. I don't know.
I feel like that's kind of like what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like ChatGPT 4 though. It does seem to be more personal than 3.5. It's a little bit harder. I mean, you can still read it and be like, yep, that's ChatGPT right there. It's generated AI. Copywriting, but it's a little bit better. Yeah. And especially if you utilize prompts to make it more in your tone of voice, then it really becomes a helpful tool, which we'll dive more into later. But for now, we're going to focus on social media and content creation. So I've used ChatGPT for Makers Cookbook to help create a content release schedule. So for 2-3 months, every day, we can set it with a frequency. Let's just preface this by saying it's not a search engine. Don't type in what you want to know and have it spit out. Utilize it as a creation tool to give you ideas to create things for you that take, effort and thought process, not just looking for answers. The more information you can give it, the better of a result it's going to be. Yeah. So for example, if your goal is to release a piece of like a video or short or image or whatever it is on whatever platform 2 times a week, then let it know, hey, I'm an artist. This is my artist name. By telling it what your artist name is, it'll look at its database, which doesn't update too frequently, but does update as time goes on. But first thing it'll do is it'll look into its database and find other things that are related to your band. So if you've been posting for years, decades, and there's like some stuff about you on Facebook, on your website, whatever it may be, it is able to pull from those things you've put out there. So it'll kind of reference back to other things you've released, potentially, if it has that in its system. But tell it what your band name is, tell it what your genre of music is, what you're trying to promote or what is coming up. I've got a show coming up on the 20th, or I've got an album about to release, or I just released an album 2 months ago. I want to remind people about it, or I got this kind of merch, and say I want to release 2 posts a week for the next 3 months on these days at the most optimal time, and it'll create a couple months worth of post this on this date using these hashtags at this point. This is the optimal point in time. Recommendations of make a post that relates back to your merch. Post a picture of a fan wearing your merch. Post a picture of you unloading your booth at a show, or repost a picture of your album. Post a picture of someone listening to your album, or have a video of you jamming out in the club when you're performing with everyone
Mm-hmm.
going on around you. Like, it'll tell you specific prompts that then you can use to create your content. So it's not just, oh yeah, make sure you post at this time on this day. It'll also give you ideas on what hashtags to use, you can be platform specific. And it's just really insane how detailed it can get the more information you give it for what you're specifically looking for.
Well, like you said, they can also do like release times, right? And
Mhm.
release dates. So like it'll tell you the optimal time to post. Is that true too?
Yep.
That's great within itself, because like, I mean, there's a big debate about when to post your content on social media. Like it gets that in the weeds.
Yep.
That people try to optimize at the correct time of day.
Mhm.
Super helpful if you're not into social media like I am. Like I'm not into it at all. Like it's just not one of my favorite things to do. I've mentioned this so many times on the podcast now. But this tool would actually help out a ton in aiding me in that process of getting into it. Like I wouldn't have to think as much. Right? Like I said at the beginning of the episode, this isn't like, or this is for things that you want AI to aid you in, you know, things that are cumbersome to you, and just to get you over that hump and just to do it, because social media is important, you know, and amongst some other things that we're going to talk about. Like you need to do these things. And if one of these things isn't your cup of tea, like this one for me, this can definitely help out a ton.
Yeah. And a tip that I have for all the 5 things we're going to talk about is when you give it a prompt to create something for you, have it create more than you need. So if you want to post twice a week, have it say, hey, I want to release 5 days a week. That way it's trying to fill in extra pieces of time. It's giving you more ideas for you to look at and attach to that you can then develop further.
Yep.
So in the first set of 5, you can say, okay, I like these 3. So I'm going to post these 2 this week, and I'm going to carry this one over to the next week. And then on the next 5, you're like, oh, I like these 3. So I'm going to use this one for this week and carry 2 over the next week. And the next one, like, oh, I don't like any of these. So I'm just going to use the 2 that I had backlogged.
Yep.
But it just allows you to think more about, okay, it gives me all these ideas, but which ones actually align with what I'm trying to say, what aligns with my music, what are easier for me to do versus what are difficult for me to do. So in any prompt you give it, try to have it give you more than you need, because then you can just kind of go through and pick and choose which ones work for you, which ones you're now energized to fully develop more into a actual post that you have to now act on and make. Not just, oh, it says I got to do this, so I'm going to do this, but I don't really want to do it, so I'm going to do it last minute and it's going to suffer. No, now you have all these options. You can pick these 2 I'm super excited about, and I think they're going to give me a great return on this post. So I'm going to focus on these 2 and disregard the rest.
Great point. That way you maintain the quality control aspect of it. You are the overseer of your brand, and you might as well get as much content out of it as you can and then throw away whatever you don't want. I think that's the best way to do it. Abundance is great. This kind of goes hand in hand with our next one, release strategies. It'll kind of tell you like what to create and what to release along the way. Also give you a schedule too. This one maybe is a little bit more in depth of a schedule. Like you would have to input a fair amount, I feel like, into your release strategy for it to be accurate to what you want to do along the way.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure how good it is with its estimation of time, right? Like how far back, I guess, would you start a release strategy in ChatGPT?
So whenever you want to release, we have a whole episode about this. I think it's episode 3 or 4, talking about the waterfall method of releasing music and what each platforms prefer when it comes to releasing stuff. A lot of it's recommended that it's 2 to 4 weeks of promotion before the song actually releases. So I would try to give it a month, ask for a month's worth of content for release before it comes out. So like the first 2 weeks can only be on social media posts. The other 2 weeks can be like how to put on playlists, how people pre-save things, how to push the merch for the launch, how to, you know, if you have a launch show or things, how to promote the launch show. Whatever you plan on doing to kind of build up this release, that's the information you want to then give it so that it can use it as a reference when generating the kind of release strategy for it. Have you released a single before that this new single kind of builds off of, like if you're building an EP or an album? Well, tell it, I've released these songs beforehand. This is a continuation of this concept. Give it that information so it then can help create ideas that emphasize this growing aspect of this larger art project that you're building, this EP, this album. Are you having a live show on the day of release? Tell it, I'm having a live show on the day of release. So make sure you put things in that help tell people about this live show, this event. If you're doing it with other artists, tell it, I'm also doing it with this artist who's releasing this song, or this artist is featured on it. And it can pull from things out there and incorporate those things onto what you're posting as much as you can give it. As much as you can give it allows for it to give you more of a variety of a response that, once again, ask for more than you need to, and it can build up all the way up to the release.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. When would you start this in the process of your journey? When do you think you would start consulting ChatGPT? Are you thinking like, building out a release strategy from the very beginning, like from songwriting to the end? Or are you thinking like once everything's recorded and in the hands of a mix engineer or something like that, then you start doing this? When would you start personally?
Personally, it depends on what kind of project you're doing. If you're releasing just single after single after single and the whole focus is the specific song, I would probably consult ChatGPT for the release strategy when the song is done, because I'm a big believer of not rushing things.
Absolutely.
Don't say, hey, I've been promoting the song for a month. I need hey, engineer, I've been promoting the song for a month. I need you to send me the files back tonight because it's supposed to release tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Been there, done that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Communicate, hey, I want this to release April 20th. So I need it done early March so that I have enough time to promote it. Set that deadline so that when you start promoting it, you have the final thing done.
Yeah.
So that way you can even talk about production tips or things like that, elements of the song. You can give sneak peeks and post clips of the audio on social media before the actual song drops. So for singles, I would do like a month. I would give it a month after you have the song done, a month before release, so you can build up to it. If you're releasing a waterfall method of an EP of an album and you're slowly building it, at the start of the project, I would create a release strategy template for the whole project, the whole album or EP. And then as songs get done, I would go back and create them specifically for each song, but then refer it to the outline of the project as a whole. Since everything is going to follow the same theme, the same idea that relates back to the main album, you're going to want to use similar colors, similar text, similar type of imagery, because it all relates back to a larger idea. And if you use ChatGPT, or even if you do it yourself, no matter what you do, if you've created a release strategy for the whole project that has all this detailed information, you want to make sure you then supply it back to ChatGPT when a single is about to release, so it can fall back on it and be consistent upon its recommendations as the songs go on.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of how I would go about it. There's nothing saying you can't go back again and again and again and kind of layer it. So because release strategies can get complicated.
Yeah,
if you want to get productive
especially
with
depending on like what you're doing with the album and how in depth I think the album is in itself. Even if it's just you want a release strategy for singles throughout the entire year, can definitely be very in depth, very, very David versus Goliath kind of like thing. You feel very small against that goal, but I mean, using ChatGPT to break it down though will help you a lot. Something that kind of goes in with everything that we've said, it kind of goes along the way, is that you need to be able to communicate sometimes, whether it's through your release strategy, through social media, or through other means of professionals, right? One thing that I use ChatGPT for all the time, that's like my main use, and my fiance would kill me if I said this right now because she is like a copywriter, but I use it for copywriting. And we're not talking about the one where you go talk to the government about protecting your song. Yeah. We're talking about copywriting as in like how you communicate, how you brand yourself, how you tell your story, fill in the blank. I mean, writing words and how you craft those words to effectively communicate what you want to communicate. And very clearly, which is something I'm not doing right now. But like I said, I use this all the time for ChatGPT, whether it's writing emails. I've used it for my biography on my website because that is intimidating within itself. Have you ever written a biography for yourself?
Yes.
It's probably the most it's the most tedious and the worst thing ever because like you're trying to gas yourself up at the same time, but you're also like, I don't want to go overboard with it. And then you're like, well, do I write it in the third person or the first person? And will people think I'm weird if I write it in the third person when they're reading it? So it's like, and then you start like choosing these words and you're like, how do I like tell my story, or like, how do I get my accolades in there without, doing this, doing that? Alleviate that problem. Just go to ChatGPT, just put in everything that you need to, your accolades, your education, your whatever, doing this towards musician, put in your accolades, put in your band information, put in where you came from, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Have it spit out something and tell it to fix certain spots. That's the best part about ChatGPT is that you can actually put something in quotes, be like, hey, take this sentence out, rewrite it, or just move it to the front, or it will regenerate it for you as many times as you need until it's perfected. And like Sean was saying before with the release strategies and the social media, you are the overseer. You are the one that will audit this after it spits out information to you.
Well, speaking of another way you can approach that versus highlighting certain sections and say rewrite it is, let's say there's another artist that has a bio that you really like how their bio is written. You can copy and paste that and say rewrite rewrite this bio in the style of this bio. And it'll analyze the writing style of the one you just uploaded and kind of implement that kind of writing style in what it just made for you. Or if you have your own writing style that you have throughout your whole website or whatnot, it's more casual, or your post or whatnot, you can also upload things you've said, things you've written. If you really want to make it casual and be in your own tone of voice, just do voice to text. Record yourself talking about what you do and have it just literally be in your voice. Upload it and say, can you summarize this, while maintaining the same tone of voice? And then once you have that summarized, you can then copy and paste that and say, apply this writing style or this tone of voice to anything else that it generates. And that's another way of putting it more in your tone of voice versus being it more robotic, more whatever.
Absolutely.
That's one of the best ways that I've used. And it's literally in your tone of voice because you're doing text. I mean, voice to text.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes you need to take it just like a tiny bit farther too. Just being like, hey, make this casual or make this exciting, right? Because like we've talked about this before. I text in all exclamation points and then like big text, whatever, cap text. And so you can put that in there. You can be like, I want this to be more energetic, or I want this to be more casual. I want this to be more professional. And will take your information that you put in there, maybe text to voice, right? Or voice to text, and it will rewrite that for you in how it sees fit. So like, depending on whatever you give it, if you want it to be more professional, it'll use professional copyright skills to give you something back.
So Brandon was talking about how he texts with all caps and whatnot. Just to emphasize this, I'm going to read the first word of the last 3 texts that he sent me. The first one is yo with like 5 O's, not just yo, dude, just yo, dude. And then after that, the next 2 are basically the same thing. It's just sweet. He's got like 5 E's and 3 T's and a couple exclamation marks. It's just like, boom, excitement. But that's his tone of voice. And if someone's communicating with you and you're trying to put together like an email template that you're going to be sending out to a lot of different people, but you want it to be in your tone of voice, you can upload your texts and copy that you've yourself written so that when it generates it, it keeps that vibe of, I'm working with Brandon right now.
Absolutely.
So anytime you're making a template versus that you're going to be sending to multiple people, if I say versus, anytime you're making a template that you're going to be sending to multiple people, like an EPK or website info. Touring info, you can do that so that always maintains your tone of voice. So anybody reading it or seeing it can be like, yep, this is what it's like communicating with this person. This is their brand. This is their energy. And it keeps it consistent.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, sir.
Yo, dude.
Speaking of touring info, what about making a schedule?
So this is actually an idea that I recently heard of that I'm really excited to talk more about and learn more about. And it's the idea of using ChatGPT to kind of plan out your touring schedule. Touring.
Midwest.
So there's a lot of information that things like Spotify and Apple Music give you that can be really beneficial to when you're planning a tour, mainly being where are people listening to you the most? What cities have the highest population of viewership? So you can go in and say, hey, these are my 5 biggest cities where my music is getting played the most. You can import those into ChatGPT and say, hey, I create a touring schedule that includes these 5 cities and pick 2 or 3 venues in each city that has a capacity of 100, 200 people or 500 people or whatever size performer you are. You can include the capacity and you can say things like, we prefer being on these kinds of nights or whatnot, and it'll put together a touring schedule that goes through all 5 of those cities, recommending venues that you can look into and do research and hit up and try to get on your route along the way. And it'll put it in an optimal route, saying we're starting here, we want to hit all these cities and come back within a month or whatnot. And it can help say, okay, go to this city first, this city next, this city next, this city next. You want to go to these 2 or 3 venues. And it'll just kind of put together a whole list of where to start. I mean, basically, you have a rough draft of your touring schedule right off the bat. Now it's up to you to contact these venues and say, hey, I want to play your location. I have 2,000 people listening in this city. Your venue holds 100. We're going to be marketing it like this. You want to communicate through these emails what your promotional tactics are going to be. You can contact other bands in the area and that now you know we're going to the city, what other bands in the city are similar to us. You can invite them to be on the ticket, make it an event. So you can approach venues with multiple artists and have more of an idea on the show. that relates to the whole tour. And it's just a great starting place for you to now do the creative, fun stuff of diving into how we're going to build it now that we know a rough template of where we can go, where we can stop along the way that's as efficient as possible. So you're not flying to Atlanta, then going back to Detroit, and then going to Memphis. And then, you don't want to be going all over like crazy. And you can say like, hey, we're going to be driving. So incorporate driving time between these venues, or we're flying. So incorporate flying time between these venues. And you can give it information, and it'll really just build a rough draft on where to go. I think it's super useful.
I think that's actually a really interesting point. I mean, we're not saying like replace your touring manager if you have one, right? Like this is very like if you're just starting to tour, or if you want to do your tour DIY, right? If you have a touring manager, that's great. I mean, he should already know this. She should already know this.
We can give this to the touring manager.
But exactly. You could set a blueprint, right? You could be like, oh, maybe this is like a rough outline of maybe what we want to do. Even like your initial point was just like researching venues. That's just so helpful. I mean, if you Google Atlanta venues, I guarantee you'll have like at least like 200 show up, right? And it's like, okay, well, which one is going to fit what we do, right? Because like you have specific venues that like pop punk or punk, you have specific venues that want to do hip hop only. You have specific venues that are jazz only, right? And it's like, okay, well, what is the capacity of these? And like, we all know that sometimes these sites, that you go to are not exactly accurate with what they portray. So if you went on like a third party site away from the actual venue itself, it might say, oh, capacity is only 500, where the actual site itself says it's 1,000 people, right? So like you could be sold short, and then your research is a little skewed, right? Because so you might steer clear from here. So it's actually a great way to initially research some stuff and get that ball rolling a little bit. So that way you don't have to put so much time and effort into it. It'll already point you in the right direction. So that way you can be more efficient and more optimized with your time.
Yeah. As you said, this is not a search engine, but it's a great starting point to then research and know where you're going, as exactly what you were just saying. And as you mentioned, you can put in, I'm a pop punk band looking to do a tour, pull up venues that are friendly to this music. So once again, it takes these 200 venues and narrows it down to 3, 5, 10 of your size in this area that you can then do more research on and narrow it down into the 2 or 3 you want to actually show up to. Once again, always recommend ask for more than you need, so that you have options that you can then spend time looking in and doing your own research on, not just relying on what it gives you, because it's prone to give you false information because it's not a search engine. It's just an aggregate generative
it's not a perfect
AI.
science. Not a perfect science at all.
But it's a way better start.
Google also gives you wrong information. So,
that's true,
so it's like at this point, you take whatever wrong information you can and just make sure that you are good enough to research that and just get the ball rolling at least, So at least now that you can't go to this venue because they don't accept this kind of music, right? Or something along the way. Scratch that off. You never need it on your touring list ever again. Yeah. Done.
Well, as you said, I think we should highlight something you said right there, is that ChatGPT is hardly ever the finished product whenever you generate anything from it. It requires your own input, your own thoughts, the thoughts of your team, the thoughts of your fans, as you kind of polish it into what it's going to end up being. It's always a great starting point. It's a launching board. It's a way of getting ideas, which leads to the fifth thing that you can use with ChatGPT is use it to get creative ideas.
Yeah.
This is kind of broad. It can be for like song ideas, album art designs, touring themes, if you want to have like themes of your shows, so it's not just an event. I mean, it's not just a show, it's more of an event, merch ideas, etc. But just if you're struggling with something and you want plenty of ideas on what you can do for it, throw it into ChatGPT, see what it gives out. Be like, I'm a pop punk artist who is looking for some unique ideas to make for my merch. Boom. It can create some things that are a little bit different than just the t-shirt and mug or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like this is where ChatGPT really shines for creative people, right? Is when you hit that creative roadblock, or you get to a point where it's not about the music, it is about the merch, or it is about the theme of the show or something, right? Maybe something that you're not as experienced in. This can be, oh my God, a lifesaver. I mean, it'll just it'll just spit out ideas. And like some of them might be stupid, but they're going to be ideas maybe you haven't thought of yet. And maybe you can take one of those ideas that you're like, it's not really for me, but maybe I can expound on this and change it into something that I want it to be. That is just so helpful. And like, it'll almost help rid that writer's block feeling, because that is really common, especially if you're burned out from like the music production process or the songwriting process or something. You're limping towards the finish line of this, right? This can help re-energize and re-spark those ideas and that creative workflow. And then you can start using ChatGPT more creatively instead of like as just a something to go, an app to go to, right? That feels a little barren. ChatGPT is a little uninspiring, as you know, like when you look at it, the user interface. You know me, I'm all about aesthetics.
Yes,
but I think it's a good looking interface to me. But like I could see like how some people might be like, it's kind of boring, right? I don't want to go there. It looks boring, you know. But I promise you, it's great stuff though. It's great stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like a quick example of kind of ways you can do it to really spur on that creativity that maybe aren't specifically music. Say videography and creating content is like video content isn't your strong suit. You can give it the whole thing of like, hey, I am a country artist whose music is all about getting back to your roots and your family life and whatnot. My fans are known as whatever, the homestead, and we always like dress up in this kind of like flannel or whatever at our concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Create a short form video idea that highlights my newest song that is about coming home to your loved ones that can become viral, that would be attractive to these kinds of fans.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to give you something perfect right off the bat, but it'll give you ideas on where to start.
Exactly.
The more information you give it, the more specific you can give it, the more end goal information you have in mind on who this is for, what you're about, how to breach that gap, the better.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Even if you start general, right? You start at the top of the funnel, really broad, starts giving you a list of 20 things, and you're like, oh, I like thing 15. Let's zero in on that. And then you start asking questions around that point that it brings up, right? Then you start funneling it into something that you never thought you could go down before. I mean, whether you don't know about it or you just didn't think about it, right? It'll start like kind of like narrowing down what to do, or maybe some ideas that kind of come up with during that like subtopic. It's great. It's a great tool, dude. Like ChatGPT is, I don't use it as much as I should, admittedly. And like I have it bookmarked on my Google Chrome. So like, I need to like make sure that bookmark is in front of everything, so that way I can see it a little bit more and be like, oh yeah, I should use this to, you know, come up with this idea or something like that, or expound on this idea, right? Like I need to really embrace ChatGPT more. Like I'm sitting here talking about it and how great it is, because the times I have used it has been awesome, but I just never remember to use it at this point. So I need to build it into my routine somehow. So this is actually a mental note for me.
I use it all the time for this podcast. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned at the start of this, everyone talks about ChatGPT. It's kind of like the big thing in the room. Like as you mentioned, everyone in the grandma knows of it at this point.
Yep.
So some of these things we've said, you've probably heard a million other places before, but as we mentioned, it's the big thing. We got to get out of the way, give more specific ideas on how to use it, not just say ChatGPT is great, you should use it. So hopefully some of these ideas helped with it. But kind of moving on, we're going to talk about some other more specific, more niche softwares and services that have an AI implementation feature to it. Kind of first off, we're going to dive into the services of Canva, Runaway, Midjourney. Those are also under the same vein of image and video creation. Canva just implemented this like a month ago, where you can
it's very recent.
Yeah. You do text to image prompts where you tell it what you're looking to do, and it'll generate 4 options for you that then you can import and turn into videos or whatnot. Now, these are great for short form music videos, or creating assets for your concerts or your website page or album art or whatnot. Anything that you can kind of put a base idea down and have it generate something for you. Super, super helpful. Once again, I don't recommend having it be like the end all be all.
Definitely not.
Yeah. If you're doing it for music videos, for short form music videos, you know, you can be artistic with it, but then still I would recommend putting on filters or transitions or things like that, which we'll talk about later, but kind of making more of your own styling. And then if you're asking it to help create images for merch or your website or social media platforms, if it's for your album art or whatnot, I would give it to an actual artist as a reference.
Say so too,
yeah. And say like, hey, this is kind of the idea I'm going for. I'm not an artistic person in this way, so this is me putting my idea on a page. Take it, make it so it better represents my music, and be more creative with it so it's an original piece. You can just take the AI and put it out there, but honestly, we're at a weird point legally where nobody really knows who owns that. You might not own the artwork. So if you just post it straight up, eventually you might lose all rights to your album art. And if you put it on t-shirts and mugs and like albums, if you make vinyl or whatnot, it potentially be, who knows? Who knows in the future? We're at the Wild West. So just be careful with that.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point that I think we should talk about too with ChatGPT too, because I've heard that this might be the case, but intellectual property rights right now are really weird with the AI stuff, because AI grabs from already previously published stuff. And there have been instances where it hasn't quoted things properly or it hasn't cited things properly, it'll just pull the information, right? So authors and stuff are kind of like not happy at the moment. And obviously the writer's strike in Hollywood was like a really big thing with incorporating AI into it. It wasn't the same exact thing that I'm talking about right now, but just know that intellectual property rights are due to change, especially with this new advent. And we haven't even grasped where to maybe even go with intellectual property rights at the moment. So, and remember, you're playing by the rules of each one of these platforms. So like they could even change their mind on how they want stuff licensed out too. So we're speaking in the present moment right now. Yeah. If you're listening to this in 2 years in the future, it's probably changed by now, I would say.
Technology always supersedes the law.
Yeah. Like Canva could come out tomorrow and be like, oh, well, now you have to credit Canva somewhere specifically for using some sort of AI generated stuff because maybe they want to push their service or they've had a group of artists come in to make in-house stuff, you know, that they want credited properly. Just know that there will be a change coming. So do your best.
Yeah.
Do your best. Yeah. Maybe hire a lawyer, but I mean, the lawyer might not even know. They'd be more knowledgeable though about that and maybe be able to steer you closer in the right direction. But yeah, so you bring up a really great point. Canva is awesome though. I love Canva. Canva's awesome. I just said that twice, so that's cool.
That means you really believe it, guys.
I really do believe it. Yep. I use Canva like pretty much every day, but I haven't used the AI feature yet. My fiance told me about it. She's used it for her job. And it's just a really cool like function that will give you the ideas, like you said, and then you can take that idea and then present it to the artist if you're doing like another. So we were talking about intellectual property rights, and now we're kind of getting into like morality rights, right? Where it's like, will AI replace the artist? That's not our topic today, but we do have to mention it a little bit right now because like I can hear it now. I can hear people talking about it now. I personally don't think it should, and I know you don't think it should because of what you just said. And some people do think it should. What? Some people do. Some people do think that it can replace the artist. That's not for us to really, I guess, decide for the listener at the moment.
No,
but if you want to speak on something about it, if you have any ideas.
Not too much.
It's kind of a curveball I just threw, but I think might as well talk about it right now.
I think at the end of the day, that decision is going to kind of sort itself out, whether or not people will be okay consuming purely AI created content.
Yeah.
I think there is a value to the kind of flaws and the uniqueness that humans bring to the art.
Absolutely.
But, you know, maybe not everyone's like that. So we'll kind of see over time as to what becomes successful and what doesn't. I always feel like you're always going to get something that's more unique and that has problems with it in a more aesthetic way.
Absolutely.
Because like AI generation for video and images, like you can tell what's AI and what's not because it has pulling artifacts and things like that that have flaws to it. And honestly, it's an aesthetic choice, especially for certain genres. I can see like future punk, things like that are more sci-fi based or futuristic styles of music that use like a lot of synths and whatnot. Really grabbing onto and embracing that kind of look, that kind of vibe where it's glitchy and
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up too. Like it feels like you could almost take a Canva AI or Photoshop AI. We're going to talk about that in a little bit and use it as like your branding, right? Like, so like some kind of like interesting bands like a Radiohead or like a Tool, I could see doing that, like just coming up with some weird AI stuff and just relying on that, right? Like that is an aesthetic within itself. That's a branding choice within itself. So you can do that. Like that's great. I think we speak for like at least maybe 80% of people when it's like, yeah, we'll generate something, then we'll send it off to somebody else, right? Like AI is not the end goal. The end goal is still art.
Then what goes back to the point of if you do build that into your brand, what do you own in it?
Exactly.
At
Because
this point,
then you're
relying
on that. Yeah. You're relying on that platform or you're relying on the content that's generated from it that was generated from something else, right? So where's the line, right? So good, excellent point.
Moving forward from content creation from like nothing with the video and the image creation of Canva and Runaway and Midjourney are the ones I'm aware of. I haven't done too much research in Midjourney, but it sounds like you can upload your own images that it can then create stuff using that as a reference, which is more bring your own personal design into it. Like you can upload a picture of you and say recreate this image in the style of, you know, an 1800s photo or things like that. So that's a little more personally involved in. I haven't done too much research on it, but that is a program I know exists. Beyond that, we're going to go kind of more into the video aspect of it. if you create kind of long form content for your music or just in general, one way or another, and you want to kind of shorten it down into bite-sized things, there are services like Video AI and GetMunch. I know GetMunch is a big one. I haven't done too much research on it. I've been using Video AI. What it does is it takes long form video, analyzes it, and cuts it down to short-sized, bite-sized pieces of content that it thinks will be popular on certain platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll AI generate descriptions for, like, this is the description on TikTok, this is the video description on YouTube, this is the video description on Instagram. It can generate different kind of captions for each platform. And once again, it can put captions on the video. It'll put, like, anytime you see a short form video out there, you see it, the captions underneath, and it has different templates that are popular right now that you can throw on your video, and it'll just kind of really quickly and easily create what's kind of expected to be on these social media platforms.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I use Video AI for this podcast, where I upload this full podcast and it'll give me 30 to 50 clips that it recommends that could be good on social media. I want to dive more into GetMunch because it seems like there's more control on that than Video AI.
Okay.
But if you're doing things like that, like if you have a music podcast with another artist, or you do interviews before you go on stage with other people who are performing with you, things like that, you can cut them down and make short form video content that then you can use to spread the awareness of your art and yourself as a musician.
Yeah. Side tangent, we need to find a study about captions and what makes them so appealing to us as humans. That's a psychological thing that we need to study, because I swear to God, if you put two videos together that are exactly the same, I'm going to watch the caption one almost every time. I don't know what it is. It tickles the brain just right, though, and it helps us understand it maybe a little bit more.
It fights boredom.
Exactly.
There's a change happening on screen. Yeah.
It's great. Love captions. Love subtitles. I watch everything with subtitles too.
Likes the captions.
Yes, it's good stuff. Side tangent over. Video AI is great for doing what you just said, but also I've tried it with music before, like a music video. Like sometimes I'll shoot like those videos down here, you know, that are just like the one shot, the one mic videos. And it has done a decent job of cutting those up too for content. And it does a decent job with synthesizing the lyrics too, even though it's melodic and, very, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It must have gotten better then, because I tried it when it first came out and it was not good.
I mean, most of my stuff is mainly hip hop stuff. So like it's not as melodic, it's more rhythmic.
That's fair.
But even the hip hop stuff that I was doing did have like melodicness in it. And it did a pretty decent job. I had to go back and fine tune a couple. Also had to blank out a couple of swear words in there. Yeah. You can edit that along the way. The best part is that it helps line up that part with the subtitle itself or the caption itself, so you don't actually have to go through painstakingly going through and aligning it yourself. So that's one leg up already. That's great. That's a time saver. I don't mind going to edit a couple of words if it got it wrong, right? So just another really cool feature that it can do. Sometimes get away with. I think Video AI gives you like percentages of how correct it is, or not how correct it is, but maybe how popular it could be, or the quality.
It ranks it out of 100 on how viral or how good of a video it thinks it will be. I think which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah, I think the one that I got was an 85 to 87 range, right? And that was the max one for the music one, right? So like, not sure how it could get better, but I know it can eventually, and I know it will eventually. So we are at the point though where you could try it and get a little bit of extra content out that way. So if you have a music video coming out, you do like an acoustic set, or you do like a one mic thing, you'll have extra content to put on your Instagram, YouTube Shorts, or wherever you see fit.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit on this list that we have created that you don't see, but we see. But we kind of talk about how Video AI and GetMunch can do like auto video creation based on these longer form things you do, whether it be a music video or a podcast or an interview or whatnot. If you want to take more of a in-depth approach where you are the one editing it and you can make it exactly how you want it, there are another one called Captions that all have video editing as like the focus of it, where you can then add your own implementations. You can cut it up as you want it. You can once again add the transcribed words below it in whatever format you want, whatever look you want. But they also have AI suggestions that help out the workflow, where you can put in transitions, you can put in effects that it thinks are beneficial to the video as a whole, and you can save them and make it your style or whatnot. I know CapCut's a really popular one.
Very.
Sierra uses it. I think it's just a phone app, so it makes it really easy to record right on your phone, get a good looking video out there, and post it up there. So if you want to take more of a hands-on approach to your short form video creation, then that's a great way of doing it. And as I mentioned, it has that AI assist of we're gonna show you transitions we think would be beneficial or effects and things like that.
Yep.
So
I imagine Adobe will eventually catch up to that. I'm going to mention Adobe Photoshop right now because these rely on content that you've already created anyways, and now you're just editing through it, right? The reason why I did mention Photoshop prior with Canva, but the reason why I didn't expound into that is because it's not exactly the same thing as what Canva does. Photoshop has a generative fill that like you can take a video or a picture that you already have and generative fill behind you. Like I said, it's not the same thing as Canva. Canva will actually put together pieces of content for you, which is really cool. This is more of like a complement to the content you already have. It kind of goes hand in hand. So like if you want to spice up the background of something, or you want to take a funny picture of the band and then put you inside of like a dinosaur amusement park or something, you can do that, right? It's another piece of content, and maybe it might be kind of cool to like make birthday cards of the band, right? And like you have balloons behind you, you make like a cheesy Hallmark card, right? And then like that's some kind of merch that you can like have people buy for somebody else.
Yeah,
right?
if it's your brand, go crazy with it.
Exactly. So it's like a compliment. They go hand in hand. I'm surprised. I don't know for sure. There's Adobe Spark out there that rivals Canva. It's not as user friendly in my opinion, but I imagine that there's got to be something coming with Premiere Pro that is some kind of AI that will help with short form content. Because if there's not, then they're going to fall behind a little bit, and they need to like maybe implement that soon.
I've been adding some additions and whatnot in their newest updates. And
Gotcha.
Whatnot. So
yeah. I mean, I'm not an Adobe executive, and I'm not like a shareholder or anything. So, but they can do whatever they want. But I'm just saying it's coming. So it's time to maybe get that going a little bit.
Yeah. So those are the more in-depth video and audio editing tools that use AI as kind of a assist to help get you to a finished idea quicker than possible. And that's mainly how I've been seeing AI recently, as a tool that just speeds up the process. Not necessarily takes away creativity or makes it done for you. Yeah. Because it'll create things, but your job's not done. Your creative force has to be behind it. This just kind of gives you ideas, gives you suggestions, gives you a starting point, gives you a launching point. Yeah. Or puts the idea on paper faster than it would be without it. So
absolutely.
It's just kind of a tool to speed things up.
Yep.
Moving on to that, talking about getting things done and
the less fun stuff. Fun to me. Fun to you.
It's been helpful for me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about some AI assisted calendar or to-do list tools that kind of help you schedule out what you need to get done by what time, and help you just kind of plan out your schedule. You can use this in addition to a content creation and release schedule that you've gotten from ChatGPT. It's like, okay, cool. Well, this tells me I have to release this on this Friday, this next Tuesday, this next Thursday. So let me put it into these calendars, break it down into what I need to have done to make sure it hits those deadlines, and it'll automatically move them around in your calendar so that you know what you have to get done by what time in order to reach these deadlines. These two ones that we're familiar with are, I use this program called Motion. You use a program called Todoist.
Yep.
And there's another one that I just got aware of called MEMAI, MEMAI. That looks like it's pretty in-depth. I kind of want to dive into that. It looks like it has more planning features than Motion does, but we're just going to be talking about Motion and Todoist.
Yeah.
And I really like Motion because you can put in what the deadline, like when you want the deadline to be, how long it's going to take for you to do it, whether you want to break it up into multiple segments or you just need to knock it out in one chunk of time. You can tell it whether you want it to be during your work hours and set your work hours, or if you want to do it after work hours and set like your after work hours, and it'll automatically populate your calendar, and it syncs to Google Calendar with what task you have to do at what time. And when you're done, you just click that it's done, and it will move other things into that slot. And if it takes longer, it'll automatically bump it down and move future tasks to a later point and date that still fulfills those requirements, so that it's kind of always evolving around what you're doing and your schedule.
Yeah. I use Todoist. I just started using Todoist this week, and so far I love it. And I think it's going to be in my workflow for a very long time. It's just very simple to use. I haven't used its AI feature just yet, and it's in its beta process right now. It's very young in the process. Like I've looked up the Reddit, and like it's very, very infancy stage. And I imagine that if I had to guess on what it did, it's not as in depth as motion would be. It's probably more like a tracker, right? That it like helps determine your habits, maybe suggest things along the way, but I don't think it's gonna move things around for you like motion does. It's not that in depth just yet, but it is coming though. And I'm really curious to see where it goes with that, just to see if I can help save a little bit of time. The reason why I don't use motion personally for me is just because I like a little bit more control over my schedule. Motion feels like you have like a boss a little bit, but that can also be a good thing too.
Yeah, you can move things around and put in.
Yeah,
you can lock into certain things.
Totally,
so
and I think like the learning curve too was like another thing too, where I just was like, I just want something kind of just simple, just to go, you know.
Well, one of the reasons I liked motion, that I tried one called Reclaim AI.
I remember we were both trying that. Yeah,
but I preferred motion because it has its separate app, so you can access it in its own interface, separate from the desktop. Whereas a lot of them, it's like desktop only or whatnot. So it allowed me to be flexible or make those changes on the go. But I completely get why. It's I don't really want it to put things in for me.
Yeah, it makes me feel weird. I'm like, okay, like I wasn't planning on doing this right now, but I guess, you know. So I'm just a very like what feels right to be done right now kind of guy. And like I think just the AI itself can't ever get that right for me, just because like it's like I'm not like emotional about it, but like it is also like this thing might take 2 hours, but I know I could knock it out faster than that, right? So that's just kind of like where I kind of come from with that. I'm so wishy-washy. Damn.
As I mentioned, a lot of these are kind of, we're just going to assist you. We're going to help you go in the right direction. So the way I use motion isn't like, oh, well, it says I got to do this in this point in time, so I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to do this in this point in time. Yeah. We had a conversation earlier in one of our episodes about motivation and discipline, and you were saying like how you do all your revisions first thing in the morning. It helps motivate you throughout the rest of the day.
That's the first thing on my to-do list every day.
Yep. And I can set motion to have that as like one of the earlier things as well. But what I'd like to do is I'm still a pen and paper guy to a degree.
I do like pen and paper.
So I'll open up motion. I'll say this is what it has throughout the day for me. And then I'm going to convert it on my notepad. So I know, okay, from this block of time, I'm doing this block of time, I'm doing this. And I have the rough outlines of how long they're going to take because I put them in motion. And then I will restructure it for the day in a way that I know is more beneficial for me. Like if it says revisions at 6 o'clock at night, I'm going to move it up to the first thing I do in the morning. Yeah. And then when I check it off, I just check it off in motion. And over time, it'll fill out the rest of it throughout the day. Yeah. It'll bump up things back. And towards the end, it works out to be about the same. And let's say I finish everything early, instead of being like, oh, my paper's done, I'm good to go. I can just go back to motion and say, oh, well, it bumped this up to 5 o'clock now. So I'm just going to do this instead. Gotcha. But that's kind of how I kind of do a dual tandem thing where it's like, hey, this virtual assistant tells me what I need to do today. I know what kind of process I need to do, but be careful. Don't just do it in the order you want to do it. Right. Do it in the order that's most beneficial.
And most productive, most efficient.
Yeah. And then I can structure it so I feel like I have that control. Like, okay, I'm taking what it gives me. I'm making it so it works for me. Yeah. But then I know it will adjust as I do these changes, or if I put things in, that'll be able to be flexible as well to fill in the times if I am early, or if I take more time than I expect, it'll push it and make it all work at the next day.
Gotcha. Yeah. I love how you do revisions first though. That is so cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
It's the better way of doing it.
It's just like, it's already guided for you. Like, you know where the stop and start is. You might as well just get it done. Right. Like that's what I realized when I started doing it. I was like, I already have the instructions in front of me. I already know where the end point is. I already know what I have to do to get there. I'll just fucking do it. Yeah. And the best part is that people really appreciate it too. Like when they send it, like I've gotten revisions at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in the studio at like 8 o'clock. I'll send it to them at 8:30. Like that's a 6-hour turnaround time. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Like that's like, poof. Like how do you get better than that? I mean, maybe
it builds
5
up.
hours, but like,
doing revisions quick builds up it's as you mentioned, it's you have the instructions in front of you. It gives you small wins right off the bat. The psychology of it's positive. Exactly. You get a quick turnaround time, which builds the relationship between you and the artist. Yep. And it's just, you're doing quick things, like you're in songs that you've already mixed, so you already like them. You're having fun. You're making these changes. You feel like you're doing something right off the bat. It's just, it's the way to do it. And I can't believe I hadn't done that before Brandon and I had that conversation. So. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yay. Let's do the next one.
All right, the next one. The next one, I think we're going to go over pretty quickly, just because like this is very dependent upon whatever you're using for your website. Yeah. Is AI SEO tools. I use WordPress for my website. And I use Rank Math for my SEO. I was using Yoast for a while, but Yoast also has AI, I'm pretty sure, built into it. Rank Math has AI built into it. You have to pay for it, but it can help you a little bit along the way. Maybe find some keywords, or maybe do some research on some keywords and do all that. Sean's idea of fun, not mine. So see now that's something that's gonna be really beneficial to me though. Is because like SEO to me, I'm like, I'm like snoring when I'm listening.
That's gonna sound glorious in the recording.
I know.
You did it right in the microphone too, my man. Come on.
Gotta commit.
Oh, we gotta
commit,
show up at the top of SEO for snoring into the microphone. Okay. SEO is a topic we talk about in a lot of episodes, but we haven't done a full dedicated episode on it just yet.
Yeah, it's honestly just because SEO is just such a
complicated,
belabored topic that I don't know where to start with it, but that's where AI could assist me in where to start with it, right? Top of funnel, then we go down the rabbit hole, right? So definitely 2 great pieces of software there to help you along with some website SEO. Wix also has AI stuff built into it with SEO. Also,
so does Easy Funnels.
And so does Easy Funnels.
Funnels has AI recommended SEO terminology that you can tag onto the page, so it helps you get found more easily.
Yep. And then kind of building off of the SEO stuff, more website-based stuff, I use Elementor Pro for WordPress. That's my builder. They have a lot of AI stuff, content generator stuff on there that you can kind of work with. It's a separate subscription. So like some of these companies do go separately where it's like you have the base subscription of the actual content creator itself or the content manager. And then you have the AI portion that you have to add on to it.
Yeah.
That is the case for mine. I think it might be the case for Wix. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that.
But I've done with Wix for a long time.
Yeah, me too. I've been done with Wix for almost 2 years now. So I really don't know what's going on in Wix world, but I want to mention it because it is a really popular website builder. I'm sure Squarespace has the same thing. We're not sponsored by Squarespace.
Google, I'm sure, probably has something.
Yeah, exactly. Weebly. I mean, if you're using Weebly. So just wanted to mention those for website creation. So if you find the website creation task daunting, I find it fun. This will help you get from point A to point B pretty efficiently.
Yeah. And another one that I've recently become aware of that also works with WordPress is a software called 10 Webs. It's like an AI creation website. So you can kind of give it references of other websites that you like and tell it what you like, what you don't like. And it will use those and kind of copy it and make it into your own website. So you're kind of building it off of pre-existing things and it'll recreate it for you to be suitable for your purpose. For your purpose. Purpose. It always falls apart towards the end of these episodes.
It does.
But it's great because we know it's about time to wrap it up.
Right,
Which it is about time to wrap it up,
That's
except there's one last thing we got to talk about.
It's like our natural timer.
It is.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. What is that called again?
I don't know. Interior timer?
What is it? Fuck it.
Well, Brandon's thinking of that.
Somebody will know.
We'll let Brandon think of that. But we're going to, as we mentioned,
biological clock.
Going to do a quick biological clock. That's it. We're going to do a quick footnote about some things that are used for music creation that are now starting to implement AI aspects of it. AI mixing, AI mastering, AI beat generation. These things all exist. As you mentioned with images, who really knows who owns the copyright for sound and beat creation and generation and things like that? Who really knows who owns the copyright? And especially if you're going to be using AI to pull samples from existing songs or to split stems so you can use it, for other songs and whatnot, which I know is really popular with certain kinds of music. Be really careful because you don't know if you own all the rights. And if you want to get into sync licensing or someone wants to use your song and they say, do you have full rights to this? You don't know if you do.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And if you don't own the rights, you're not going to get your song licensed.
Yeah.
So,
We've had a predecessor to this and we didn't know how this was going to go until we've reached a point where we finally figured out where it went. Right. So I'm talking about like Splice. Splice is like one of the biggest sample libraries out there. You pay $15 a month or something for 100 credits and you can use whatever sample they have on there for free, royalty free. Sucks though, because people get to those samples first and then they release a commercially huge song and then you can't use that sample really anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? So we've come full circle there. And I can only imagine we're going to be coming full circle with AI at some point, just like how we did here. So for example, I found a Kendrick Lamar sample on Splice one time. I can't use that. First of all, you're going to get shunned by your peers because they'll be like, oh, bro, you bit off of this guy, right? Second of all, it's Kendrick Lamar. I mean, he released it through a label. Like there's copyright issues with that. Yep. And then now you have to get sample clearance.
Even though you own the
royalty-free sample.
Yeah, even though you technically can use the sample.
Yep.
Now their system is going to pick up that, this sound is in this song. So we have copyright of this song. So it just gets it can just potentially get messy.
Yep. And we did this before the AI craze, right? We set this up beforehand. I mean, I was using Splice in 2018, right? Now we're starting to see its ugly head where it's like these really aren't free all the time. Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes I mean, Splice is great. Like I love Splice. But sometimes you can come to those crossroads, and we will see that with AI eventually. So just be ready. Just be ready. I think I forgot which DAW it was. It might be Pro Tools. I don't know for sure though, but there's like a disclaimer in there somewhere that says that it can record your motions and how you do things in the order of which you do them, where you click on the screen, your mouse movements, whatever the case may be. So they can record that and take that into their database for whatever they're going to use it for. I can only imagine when AI is going to come out for DAWs at this point. I'm surprised it hasn't. It's coming. So,
it has for specific plugins within the DAWs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Eventually, I think like in DAWs, there's gonna be like AI automations where, hey, just play the tracks and we'll automatically adjust the faders to kind of be like this mixing style or whatnot.
Get this kind of balance, like a more focal forward balance. Now let's adjust the faders and just base it off of RMS values, right, or peak values, right? Wow, that's gonna be weird, dude.
It's gonna be interesting.
Wow, holy shit!
Be fun. We'll see how it goes.
I think so too, dude. And so we have two main guys in this field right now that we want to mention. Real
that
quick,
we're aware of, have used, so we have some experience.
Exactly. The first one being the Isotope Suite, Nectar, Neutron, and Ozone. Does RX have any AI stuff?
I don't know. I just know that those three do.
Yeah, they definitely do, and they actually intercommunicate with each other across the session. That's how you use them. And that's how the AI feature is kind of like gathered, processed. So it takes in all that information from a session, will help you mix a session. And I think you said you can do like a blend where you can like...
Yeah, you can have, it simplifies it down to a simple fader and like how close do you want it to the reference of what it's supposed to quote unquote sound like.
Yeah.
Like you can also use a fader on how wide you want it, how narrow you want it, how much of the effect you want, how much you don't want it. It just analyzes it, gives you what it recommends, and then gives you like 5 controls on whether or not, like how heavy you want to go with its recommendations.
Yeah. Definitely a great place to start, in my opinion. I don't think it's a great place to end most of the time. If you are mixing your own stuff and you find that helpful, that's great.
It's phenomenal for demos.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's necessarily at the point where it's like, yes, my finished final product. Song. This is just through all this AI, but it's phenomenal for demos.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if you don't know exactly what kind of effects you want, what kind of sound you want.
Yep.
You can mess around with it to kind of dial into where it's close to where you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And then the one that complements the mixed one is Lander mastering. Lander's been around for years, it seems like now. You can just upload your file to Lander and then it'll automatically master. I think it spits out like 3 different kinds or something like that, and you can select between them. I don't know. I've never used it. I've seen videos on it. That's just from what I remember. And then you can like download each copy and then compare each one, and then you can release it and go from there. I don't know much about it. I also don't think that's a good place to finish, a song either.
It's an option.
And
it could be good for your music.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Possibly. Depends how well it's mixed.
Depends how well it's mixed. Depends on that is one of the things you lose is if you have a really good mastering engineer who like has done good shit and you trust, you can send them a mix and they'll say like, hey, if you want this to sound better, you need to adjust this in the mix.
Yeah.
So that way, when it goes to the mastering process, it gets the effect that you want.
Yeah.
Lander will just take what you get, and it'll just make it to what it
just spits it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very transactional. Like Sean was saying, if you build a relationship with a mastering engineer and you send him enough stuff, he can tell you like, hey, dude, you're pushing way too much low end on your mixes, dude. You need to back off. Then that gives you a clue into A, what is it, a monitoring issue? B, is it just a me issue? C, is it a room issue? And then now you can start troubleshooting some of the issues you have along the way, and then your mixes get a little bit closer each time, just because you have that extra set of ears that can give you that feedback that knows your work.
Yep.
Lander does not do that.
No, it does not.
If it does, though, oh man, watch out, mastering engineers.
Woo!
Holy shit, that's gonna be a tough one. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think it'll ever get to that point. But never say never.
Never say never. We'll honestly find out in the future.
Last great tool.
You have another one. What's the last one?
Clippy from Windows 98.
Where are you going with this?
Yeah, he was just cute. I miss him.
Oh.
He was totally useless. And he wasn't even AI. I don't think he was. At least. No way. There's no way.
Okay.
But he did talk.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You don't remember Clippy?
No, I do. He's a paperclip.
Clippy was awesome.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He was smiling, bro.
Yep. He's gone now.
Why do you hate Clippy?
No, he's just gone now.
I know, but like, what about something in Pro Tools that's like Clippy? That'd be bad though.
There's one
You
in
don't want Clippy in Pro Tools.
FL Studio has like an anime girl that you can put on the screen and she'll dance to your music. I'm not even kidding. That's their version
You know
of
what?
Clippy.
Why doesn't that surprise me for FL Studio, bro? No offense.
Yep.
No offense to FL users, but
They also have a visualizer that you can put your music through. Yeah. I've broken Brandon. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode. This is probably something that we're maybe not going to make a full podcast episode anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because it's just changing so quick, so fast. Who knows where AI is going to go? Probably maybe one big AI episode a year from here on out, or every 6 months or something. We'll figure that out. But as we learn more tools, try more things, we'll probably start posting short videos that talk about it and review it and how they can be used on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. If you're watching this on Spotify or any other podcast platform, make sure you go over there, subscribe as well over there. Check us out on other platforms like Instagram and TikTok. We post a lot of short form content there, which we're starting some new series that are going to be more kind of creative, interesting, give you some ideas for merch that are more out there based on what other artists have historically done. Some pretty wacky shit out there. But with that being said, that's it for today's episode. What AI tools do you use to help with your career in the music business? Which one of these have we talked about that you're excited to use, that you have used? And
because we might want to use them.
We might want to use them.
Yeah.
Always trying new things, always learning new things. So
yeah, that'd be great. Maybe we'll even feature it on a later AI episode.
Maybe we will.
Yeah. So that being said, I guess bon appetit.ai.